This is Lessons in the Challenges of Leadership, the series that enables managers to achieve the remarkable. Podcast, video, short reads. Conceived, developed and presented by Siebert Neethling.
So in the last episode, I shared my busking story, a rather regressive example of innovation. It was really about stripping things back to the essential elements and then refining and repeating that in a way that yielded the best results. It combined some very basic art with some pretty basic entrepreneurial principles. But what about innovating as an organization? Innovating at scale? Can an organization develop an innovation culture? Well, I lived through a wonderful experience, seeing an innovation culture develop and thrive while working for a large brewing company. It was in the mid-1990s when I was recruited into a strategic role by this incredible organization. Brewing is an ancient art, and a simple one. You can play around with the ingredients, use different starch sources, or add more or less hops. But that is a very narrow and well-defined band of innovation. A brewing company, however, has a much broader range of potential innovation. There's production, but there's also marketing, finance, procurement, human resources, social responsibility, environmental practices, packaging, distribution, laboratories. A lot goes into making a brewing company successful. So how could you stimulate innovation in such an environment in a way that everyone buys into it? When I started at this company, I learned on day one about its interesting and unique vision statement: to be rated in the top 5 brewing companies in the world by the year 2000 by any measure. Now, the reason for this approach is that they reckoned that if they were in the top 5 by any measure, they would become the most successful brewing company in the world. Ambitious, I know. Our organizations often have grandiose and embarrassing vision and mission statements. Occasionally, they are meaningful, and this one was incredibly successful. For one, everyone knew it by heart. I bet that people who worked there at the time would still be able to quote it word for word 30 years later. I can. To be rated in the top 5 brewing companies in the world by the year 2000 by any measure. It was frequently used and visually reinforced. We were even given little pocketbooks with the vision on the first page. Most importantly, everyone had to be part of the vision. They got all of us executives to buy into this approach by mandating that everyone should have a top 5 project. So distributors would look at who the best brewing companies in the world were in terms of distribution. Metrics like dollars spent per hectoliter delivered. If they found that the Japanese were the best in the world in this metric, they would copy what they were doing and progress to be at least in the top 5. I was warned when I first started that if you happened to get into the lift with a managing director at any time, he was likely to ask you what your top 5 project was. And it happened. Fortunately, I had an answer. Even though I was in a strategic role, I found a great project in byproduct beneficiation. The German beer companies were the best in the world at extracting value from spent yeast, a byproduct of the brewing process. So we bought some old drum dryers from Kellogg's and started drying spent yeast to food grade like the German companies did. Our products became ingredients for bodybuilding supplements, face masks, hair conditioners, and even food spreads similar to Bovril and Marmite. I saw great top 5 projects from HR, finance, packaging, and brewing itself. I had 2 favorites. My day 1 experience was incredibly well organized. My laptop was ready on my desk with software loaded and a temporary password. My business cards were printed and ready. Why not? They knew I was coming and they had my details. I felt very welcomed. There was even a memo pad printed with the words "from the desk of Siebert Neethling." My itinerary was printed, and it included beer education. I was escorted to the 5th floor at 11 a.m., where someone explained the brewing process in great detail. I was even showed how to pour a beer just right so there would be 2 fingers of foam at the top. All of this was the outcome of a top 5 project by someone in human resources. They looked into retention rates at the top brewing companies in the world and discovered that the induction experience correlated very well with tenure. If people feel welcomed and part of the company from the beginning, that positive experience made them more likely to work through later challenges. First impressions really do count. On episode 5 on culture, we shared how we adopted this approach in my own company. My other favorite was a bottling example. Many people put beer in tubs with ice and water, especially at outdoor parties. This often leads to labels slipping off, not a great look for the product. Someone's top 5 project was to research the best labeling practices in the world. They found that some companies used superior glue that did not lose grip when the bottle was immersed in water, so they copied it. I remember arriving at work one day to find tubs with beer bottles all over the reception area and a competition to see if you could peel off the label. That team was very good at publicizing the results of their top 5 project. There are many more important examples, but the point is that the approach worked. Innovation was not just encouraged, it became the philosophy behind much of our work. And it delivered compounding results. The company became very successful through acquisitions and eventually acquired Miller in the United States to become the largest brewing company in the world at the time, SAB Miller. To this day, it is the best example of an innovation culture that I have experienced. But I have witnessed many others. I've seen a legal firm transform from a disorganized and antagonistic environment to a well-run innovation machine. I've seen an insurance broking firm transform from being deal writers to trusted risk advisors. And I've witnessed a typical government processing center become a world-class, highly respected and efficient access point for services. All these examples started with a vision of how they wanted to be, and then innovated at all levels and in all areas. Innovation is about doing things differently, different from others, or different from how you used to do them. Of course, not all change is innovation. To use a common but unfortunate analogy, rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic is not innovation. Change is only innovation if it serves a purpose and if it leads to a better outcome or a better alternative. In our fast-paced world, innovation is forced on us. Today, it is digital technology and data. During the Industrial Revolution, it was steam and mechanization, and in the late 1900s, it was robotic manufacturing and computers. On many occasions in history, it was warfare and survival. In some domains, it is competition. It reminds me of evolution. It is sometimes described as survival of the fittest, but actually, evolution in nature has always been about survival of the most adaptable. If you're a leader and innovation is not core to your leadership approach, maybe you're not a leader for your time, and better evolved leaders will replace you. Next time, we'll look at some innovation tools. See you then.